Well, we finished the week with a green day, which is a win. Did have a red week, so the first losing week in the last 5 weeks, but at least it was a small losing week. So, hey, all is not lost. I'm pretty happy with the week. We learned a couple of things, so let's just dive right in. Fellow traders, it's Black Coffee Trader. It is Friday, September the 19th, and we are wrapping up the week here and doing the daily recap and also kind of the weekly recap. A couple things I want to point out. So, as you can see today, we're up about, I don't know, 38, 40 bucks per account. Nothing too big at all, but this market just absolutely went skyrocketing. The NASDAQ reaching new highs here at the end of the day, setting a new high there. Excuse me. And ES, similar picture. We did set a new high here end of day. I do like seeing this on the ES because we had set a new high in the overnight session. Here a couple days ago, we had an overnight session high. Today we did set the new high during the New York session. I do like that better. I think that has a little bit more merit. But then again, just a statistic there. But there we have it. The Dow Jones definitely bled higher a little bit. Had a little bit of a loss there. That was the losing trade of today. And then the Russell, ironically, bled to the downside. So I was really, this morning I was pretty bullish on the markets. I was pretty bullish. I was looking for this bounce. This morning, this was the first trade of the day. Was this long. As we got back down to retest this area, let me just show you what that is. So that is this high from the CPI data that we had here a couple days ago. And I was looking for this area to hold. We had kind of had a hold there. I was just looking for this to continue. And my thought was today, do we bounce? We'd kind of tested it in the overnight. We held it in the overnight and I thought maybe we can test it and get a move back to the upside. The Russell is the only market that is not at new highs or did not make new highs this week. The other markets have made new highs twice now, I believe. So in any case, that's what I was looking for. However, that did not occur. I did take this long this morning. Got into this trade here, stopped below this low area, and a little bit sluggish, but we got the move out with one contract. I decided to wait to add until I get some kind of a break and retest above here. That never did occur, and we fell back down, and I did take got stopped out break even. I did make one little change today to my thought process. Actually, you know what? I'll cover that. I'll cover that here in a minute. Let me just go through the trades first, then I'll explain why I went to this break-even setup. So the next trade was this break and retest below this 2480 area, this area that I was just talking about. So the next trade, really, we kind of went stagnant after that trade. This market, obviously, let me just zoom in here a little bit. So we were just kind of chopping around here, not getting a clear, defined direction. And I just elected to wait. I mean, obviously, this EMA that I've got, this little cloud, if you will, red, definitely looked very much like a downtrend, which, I mean, it was a downtrend, but I just wasn't convinced until we got this move. And we got this breakdown, and I thought for a minute I wasn't even going to get an entry, and this thing is literally going to tank. Because when we lost this area, I assumed, or not assumed, but my thought was, if we lose this, are we now going to take the flush all the way down here to this next level of support? And that was kind of the play that I had in mind when I took this next trade. And I had told myself, I'm going to wait, and I'm not going to just chase the breakdown. I'm going to wait and get some kind of a pullback back to this level. Well, we got this big wick candle that popped right up here. I mean, that literally popped right up to these lows and immediately rejected, and that's when I took the entry. Boom, went right into there. Had my stop pretty tight. I was like, either this is going to flush or I'm just going to get out of it. And we kind of, had to sit through a little bit of chop here, but got first profit target here. And because of the fact that the Russell was drifting to the downside, but ES and NQ and the Dow Jones were all kind of generally bleeding higher, I decided to not add. Typically, I would have looked to add when we got a little pullback and a push back down. I would have been looking to add to this position, but I decided I was not going to, and I elected to just trail a stop right above this 21 EMA. And so I just kept trailing a stop. and just kept trailing this as the candles developed. I just stayed above that 21 EMA and finally got stopped out over here on this reversal. And the other thing too that's interesting is look at how cleanly once we broke that 21 EMA, now we have this cross on this indicator, and obviously at that point things started to bleed higher. So I was happy with that. I was happy getting out of that trade. I think this trade was a plus 20, and this trade was a plus about 40. So I was up about $60 per account after those first two trades. Obviously, in hindsight, I think the better trade would have been to wait until we get to here and take the short at this point. You get the first profit target. You know, you could have your stop loss here. First profit target probably somewhere in there. Get the little pullback and maybe add, and then grab a couple more on the way down. It could have resulted in a pretty nice trade, but again, there was a bit of that divergence going on with the Russell going to the downside, and ES and NQ and the Dow Jones going to the upside. So anyway, that was that. Happy with it. Again, looking for a small little win today and kind of end the week on at least on a positive note, even though we were a little bit red on the week. And then the last trade, I was really pretty much done. I wasn't really planning on taking another trade. And then we had this setup occurring on the Dow Jones, and we had this move to the upside and this pullback and push back out of there. And I was like, man, I gotta take this. So I did. I took it with pretty small size, which turned out to be okay, keeping the loss to a minimum. Move this over. And went in with 2 micros, pretty tight stop, just really underneath that level. And this was one of those trades where, first profit target was somewhere here. Was looking for more profit up there, obviously, but I just got stopped out. We got this little flush, and I got stopped out right here. A little bit unfortunate, but this was one of those trades where I had the direction right, but I had the timing wrong. So there was 2 things. Either A, yeah, I could have given it more, I could have given it all the way down here for whatever reason. But the way I trade, I'm looking for a break and retest of a support or resistance level, and I want this move to happen. And if I lose that level, I'm just out, and I'm looking for a better entry. I would rather do that, take a small loss, than to sit through this and hope, and then what if this thing just continues to go down and I end up taking a pretty big loss. So that's why I don't do that. So here I had the direction correct. The timing was wrong. Obviously, the entry really should have been right here. But hindsight is 20/20. You're going to have some of those losses. So that ended up being a small little $20 loss, and that's really what ended up with the week being, or the day being, a plus $40, so to speak, on each of the funded accounts. So that's where we ended up there. Now let's dive into TradeZella. Actually, first. I talked earlier here about taking profit at break even. So that is one thing I did today. I decided to make that little change today, that if I get to my first profit target, and I didn't take it today, but I really want to increase that first profit target to being like at a 1.25 to a 1.5 R. So basically what that means is, let's say on this trade, here's my stop loss, here's my entry, and let's say I'm risking $50. So I'm going to try to have my profit target at where the first profit target is, at, in this case, if I've got 2 contracts, let's say I'm risking 50, I'm going to try to get out of that trade at somewhere around, this would be 25. This is going to be about 37.50. So I'm going to try to get out of that first trade around 37.50. And then I'm going to move my stop to break even. And if it stops me out, I've at least got this locked in. But anyway, the reason for that is if I go back on the Dow Jones and I go back a couple of days, on Wednesday I had the bigger red day on the week. Go back to Wednesday here. Here we go. On Wednesday, I took a break and retest in the morning right here that ended up failing. That was a small loss. Actually, I think I added to that position. Yes, I did. I got out with 1 contract, ended up taking a loss. This trade here, got in here, took 1 contract off, added to the position down here, ended up taking a loss. And the last trade, entered here, got to my first profit target, ended up taking a break-even loss. So all 3 trades, 1, 2, and 3, I was in profit. Well, that was a squiggly 3. I was in profit here, here, and here. So if I just protect profits. And once I get to TP1, if I move the stop break even, and if it stops me out, so be it. If I would have done that, this would have been a winning day. And instead of having a $2,000 losing day, we could have had a, maybe, I don't know, a couple $100 green day, which would have been much, much better. So if you go there, that was right here. That was Thursday or Wednesday. We had the $2,300 red day because of that. And I just felt like for that reason, FOMC week has typically not been the best. I've not done the best trading FOMC week. And just kind of this really reminded me, like, dude, I'm letting profits slip away, even if they're small. Why not protect that win? Because let's think about this another way. If my strategy plays out and we get into a winning trade, and let's say, the entry is here, for example, TP1 here, for example, stop loss here. If I then move my stop to break even, and let's say, it does whatever, most of the time, if the trade's going to end up being a bigger trade, it's going to go. It's not going to come back and test this area or stop me out. And if it does, and it sets up, I can get back in again, and I've protected my profit. So I hope that makes sense. So that's just one thing I may need to tweak a little bit and be a little bit careful about that, about maybe looking for a little bit more on the initial move, maybe a 1.25, 1.5 R on the first profit target, take about half off, and then go to break even, and then look to add or, see if this thing can ride. So anyway, that's just a little adjustment that I'm looking for. But let's go back to TradeZilla. We'll look at those numbers real quick, and we'll kind of wrap things up. So on the day, we are up 700, 66% win rate, 2 for 3, average win to loss 1.3. On the week, we are down $1,000. We had 2 red days, a very small red day, a $2,000 red day, and then we had the 3 green days. So not a terrible week. And the other thing too is the first losing week in 5 weeks, which is really good. We have still had a pretty solid month so far. Let's look at this month. What am I looking at here? Oh, that's this week. Let's go to this month. This month we are up 4,100, 44% win rate, 1.6 on the average win to loss. Definitely my winners have reduced a little bit. I've not had any bigger winners recently, and that's reduced this a little bit. But overall, stats pretty good. So let's also take a look at this 5-week period since I've been focused on winning the week. I really like that mentality. It kind of takes the bigger picture. So in that 5-week period, we're up 4,300, 40% win rate, 1.75 on the average win to loss, average winning trade $70, average loser 40. So those stats work, but that's where we're at, and that's where we're going. So anyway, I think we'll leave you with that. Win some, lose some. We keep working at these losing weeks, if you will. To me, it's an opportunity to see what can we improve, how can we get a little bit better. We're going to have red days, we're going to have red weeks. The key is just protecting that risk capital, not letting that capital get squandered away on big positions and big losses. I would rather have smaller losses and even small wins, and then eventually we get here and there, we get some bigger wins, and that's what pays for the small losses. So that's how we keep this capital intact and continue to march forward. So anyway, we'll leave you with that. Just a reminder, don't forget about the Apex sale that's ending next Tuesday. That'll come up on this banner here shortly. That sale, 80% off, ends next Tuesday, so don't forget about that. Code BCT gets you the best deal with Apex at all times. Also, the Take Profit Trader deal, QuantGuard, TradeZilla, BCT gets you that deal, the best deals with those resources as well. So again, thank you. Appreciate you guys using the code, supporting the channel, and have a great weekend. Feels good to enter or go into the weekend at least on a green day. Last couple of days, nice little small green days, but green nonetheless. And we'll get after it again next week. So have a great weekend. We'll catch up with you next time. Take care, and so long.